Before the start of the 2021 NBA playoffs, I thought the LA Clippers would win their first round series against the Mavericks pretty easily and do that in 5 or 6 games. And while the Clippers can still win this series in 6 games, they're going to have to do so by winning 4 games in a row, which is extremely tough, as the Mavericks have shocked most NBA fans and now hold a 2-0 series lead over the 4th-seeded Clippers. And today, I want to break down just how the Mavericks have jumped out to this 2-0 lead in this series. What's up, guys? SCJ here, and if you enjoyed today's video, then make sure to give it a like as it helps out a lot. And if you're new to the channel and or enjoy the NBA, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. So last night, the Dallas Mavericks won their 2nd straight playoff game of this series against the LA Clippers by a score of 127 to 121 to take a 2-0 series lead. Even though a 5 seed upsetting a 4th seed isn't a crazy big upset, this still feels like a pretty major upset due to the fact that the Clippers were without Kawhi, PG13, Patrick Beverley, and Serge Ibaka for a large number of games this season, so their record could have been even better than it was, and the Mavericks have really struggled for most of this season, but then they had really started to figure things out and find their rhythm after the All-Star break. So to most fans, this feels like they're a worse team than they really are. However, this Mavericks team doesn't look that bad at all whatsoever, as Luka has put up some extremely nice performances in the first 2 games of this series, but the Mavs have also had 4 of their 5 starters score double-digit point totals in both of the first 2 games of this series against LA. And that's of course great for them, as they get that spread out scoring throughout their entire lineup. However, that hasn't really been the same story for the Clippers though, as even though in Game 1, both them and the Mavericks had 5 guys score double-digit point totals, the Mavericks double-digit scorers all dropped higher point totals on Saturday. And then last night, they didn't have that same luck, as even though Reggie Jackson gave them a nice 15-point performance off of the bench, the only other players who scored double-digit point totals were PG13 and Kawhi. That's not going to work out when the Mavericks' entire rotation was really doing a great job of scoring the basketball. Beyond that though, the identity that most people give to this Clippers team is the fact that they're best known for their defense, but in these first 2 games, that hasn't been the case. Even though it's only been a small first 2 games into this series, the Clippers have had the absolute worst defense of any of the 16 teams in the entire 2021 playoffs. They're also giving up the 3rd most points of any playoff team while facing the team which scored the 14th least amount of points per game for the entire season. And even if we look at the second half of the season, when they really started to figure things out, the Mavericks only improved by 1 spot. So I think that really says a lot about the Clippers' defensive struggles early on in this series. Now, beyond just their defensive struggles, I think there's 2 reasons as of why they have come out flat in the first 2 games of this series. And to me, the first has to be the team's inefficiency, and the second is the absence of 2 key players in their playoff rotation. In terms of their inefficiency, the Clippers have been the 3rd most inefficient team in the entire playoffs through their first 2 games of this series. Also, one of their key guys, Ivica Zubac, has really struggled and hurt the team through their first 2 games, as the Clippers have had a minus 29 plus-minus rating when he's on the court for them, so that's not very good to say the least. This right here really proves that some changes need to be made before Game 3 on Friday night. And that would have to be, of the Clippers bigs in this series, Ibaka has a plus 17 rating, Zubac has a minus 31 rating, and Morris has a minus 35 rating. Yet, Ibaka has only played 17 minutes, Zubac has played 40 minutes, and Morris has played 56 minutes. So that's crazy to see, and that's definitely ass backwards in my opinion. Another guy who not only needs to see more minutes, but just needs to see the court in general, is one of the Clippers' big off-season pickups, Luka Kennard. On December 21st, right before the season began, Kennard signed a big $64 million 4-year contract extension with LA. Yet he's literally gotten 0 minutes in this playoff series thus far, and I really can't tell you why. Kennard finished the season with 2 solid performances despite poor shooting from beyond the arc in both of those games, but he only saw limited minutes in 4 of his 5 games prior to that also. So I'm not really too sure what's going on in LA, but I will say this. Ty Lue really needs to start changing things up in the rotation and playing Serge Ibaka as well as Luka Kennard if this Clippers team wants any chance of winning this series. Now listen, in terms of the way the rest of this series will go, I can't really tell you as of right now, as I don't really have a clue who will win. But I do think if the Mavericks manage to win Game 3 on Friday night, that they'll most likely win this series, as coming back from 3-0 would be extremely difficult for this Clippers team to do. However, I do think the Clippers can come back and win this series. The only thing is that it will not only be difficult to do, even as of right now, but I do think it's kind of obvious what needs to be done in order for the Clippers to come back. And those things are, of course, that they need to clamp down more and play better defense, especially on the rest of the Mavericks roster, as they've had their fair share of guarding Luka, not only in this series, but in their series against the Mavericks last year as well. The two other things are not only play more efficient basketball, but they need to change their rotation around and make sure Serge Ibaka and Luke Kennard are getting a big amount of minutes on the floor. Kennard and Ibaka were big offseason pickups who proved during this season that they can be effective, and if the Clippers give them a good amount of minutes of playing time on Friday, then I feel they'll have an extremely good chance of winning that game in Dallas. So anyway guys, I wanted to make a quick video breaking this down and talking about this a bit, since I haven't really had much to break down lately. But guys, I want to know what you guys think about this Mavericks team or this Clippers team level of play in the first two games of this series so far. Any of these players on either of these teams' level of play in the short two-game stretch that we've seen, or anything having to do with either of these teams, down below in the comment section. Like I mentioned before though, if you like this video, then make sure to give it a like, as it helps out a lot. And if you're new to the channel and or enjoy the NBA, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell. That way you stay up to date with my newest content. Anyway though guys, I'm SCJ and I am out. Peace.